Live with Miami's Community News, South Florida's #1 source for local stories. I'm Michael Miller, bringing people together and sharing the voices, events, and connections that shape our community.
We did this morning that event. Tell everybody about it. What's next? What do we have to do?
Thank you for joining us. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Miller. We have two great guests, one from Kristi House, Amanda Altman. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And I see you're also an attorney. Congratulations.
I am.
We'll get into how you wound up with Kristi House a little later. We have Miriam Singer. You're the president and chief executive officer of the Jewish Community Services of South Florida. Long name.
Very long name.
The reason you're here, tell us why you're here.
Well, we're here because the mayor's proposed budget for the coming fiscal year completely cut all funding for nonprofits. And for us specifically, we're community-based organizations who went through an RFP process and were awarded grants from the county. That accounts for about $16.55 million that was completely zeroed out in this budget.
The 16.5 for all of them.
For the community-based organizations,
Okay,
about
yes.
150 of them. And
Okay.
so Miriam and JCS have brought together about 58 of those community-based organizations as a collective so that we can advocate for that funding to be fully restored.
Okay. And tell us about the services that you provide, Miriam.
Jewish Community Services is a social services and health services nonprofit. We've been around for 106 years, and we care for individuals that are experiencing trauma, from young children that are surviving domestic abuse, all the way to Holocaust survivors who are centenarians who require home care. And our eldest survivor is 109 now. So the range of services and the amount of need in our community is so significant, especially at this moment with federal and state funding cuts.
Sort of the double whammy, isn't it?
Yes.
Maybe triple.
Like a
by the
triple
time
whammy, like a triple whammy, really, yeah.
So tell us about what Kristi House does.
Yeah, so Kristi House is Miami-Dade County's nationally accredited children's advocacy center. We have been around for 30 years. This is our 30th anniversary. And we are trying to prevent child sexual abuse and other forms of childhood trauma while also treating kids who have been abused and suffered from trauma. We coordinate the entire county's response to child sexual abuse cases. We also provide all of the evidence-based trauma therapy that these kids need to recover, and we provide care coordination for the children and their families. We also have a very specialized program, the only one of its kind in Miami and really in the state of Florida, a drop-in center for kids ages 13 to 24 who are survivors of child sex trafficking.
So many services that are offered to people here in Miami-Dade County. The more we do this type of thing here, the more we recognize there is help for everyone that wants it. Somewhere there's help. So what's going to happen if the commission, because it's really the commission that votes on it, doesn't fully restore, because they started restoring part of it. But the time they're going to vote on it is September 3rd.
September 4th is
September
the first
4th.
budget hearing, and the final budget hearing where decisions are going to be made is September 18th.
So let's talk about on September 4th. What do you want people to do?
What we would like to do is for the mayor and the county commission to continue to identify funding to restore fully the safety net community-based organizations that have been in partnership with the county, serving every zip code in this community and in every commission district to ensure frail and vulnerable residents have food on their tables, have jobs. Individuals living with a mental health diagnosis are able to get support, and individuals with family members who have different abilities can maintain a job while their loved one is being cared for. There's a comprehensive safety net of services that would be completely unraveled. There are organizations in this community that would completely shut their doors and have to say to seniors who go for one warm meal a day, that is their only connection to community, is that one meal. Sorry, we will not be able to provide you food. Our community is not committed to care for your wellness. And we know, Amanda and I and the rest of the members of the collaborative know that our mayor and commissioner care deeply about those in need. So we are hopeful that we will turn the corner and we will see the identification of those resources needed for us to continue this work.
So the mayor is my mayor, right? I think she's done a phenomenal job. But the commission and administration and this mayor knew what would happen if they defunded all of this. Have you thought about how that mindset made its way to a presentation to the commission and to the public?
Well, as you said, Mike, this is your mayor. This is our mayor too. A similar situation occurred back in 2008, and at the time, the mayor was leading the charge, advocating for nonprofits to get their full funding. I think she and the commission find themselves in a very tough position this year with this potential budget deficit, and tough decisions have to be made. And we understand that, and we appreciate the difficult position that they are all in. We just do not believe that cutting off this safety net and this lifeline for the most vulnerable people in our community is the right and best way to address it. We are telling those people that they are not worth fighting for.
Let's talk about if somebody's out of the system, out of support, they're going to wind up at Jackson somewhere, probably there.
Absolutely.
And who pays for it there?
The taxpayer does.
So it's just sort of passing that through. If people want to attend the August 4th, September 4th meeting, they can do that, or they can go to miami-dade.gov, and all the email addresses, all the commissioners and the mayor, all right, you can send a letter, and if in the simplest of terms, all right, that somebody could remember to put in it, what do you want them to say if they're going to send a short letter, email?
In the simplest terms, we want them to ask the mayor and the commission to fully restore the funding that has been cut for community-based organizations.
And Miriam, when we look at the last 5 years, we had pandemic, we had all that money that was floating around for years, and then we have these splitting of several other departments, which at the minimum it was a change. I don't know about the money part, but it was a big change. I think before everything fell underneath the mayor, right? And now the police is separate, the tax collector's office, and a couple other ones. So there's a different mindset today than it was a year ago. So in my mind, I sort of like, okay, but we still need to figure out where they're going to get the money. And nobody wants to get left out. I wonder if in hindsight, the tax reduction they did in 2023 and 22 was really the right thing to do. Hindsight is always wonderful. And Amanda's gone, I don't know if I'm going to say anything. But as you look at it, again, hindsight is terrific. But again, on the Kristi House, let's talk about the specific services that you provide and what your client looks like and where they're from.
Yeah, of course. So we provide services to children ages 0 to 18, up to 24, like I said, in our human trafficking program. But they come from every zip code. They look like all of us. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before their 18th birthday. So they look like all of us. And, we had a client recently, 16-year-old little girl who was sexually abused. She was so traumatized. She didn't want to talk about what had happened to her. She certainly did not want to have to face the perpetrator in court. And so it took us providing that evidence-based trauma therapy to get her to a place where not only was she healing from that trauma, but also she was regaining her voice. She was regaining her confidence. That way, the state attorney's office working with Kristi House can then go after that perpetrator, can put that person in jail where they belong. That young lady also used her experience, her time at Kristi House, the therapy she received, the advocacy, the care coordination that both she and her family received to write her college admissions essay. Not only did she get accepted to college, she got a full ride. Imagine what happens happens to that young woman if Kristi House is not there to intervene and provide services? Imagine also what happens to that perpetrator who potentially goes free because she was unable to testify against him. How many more victims would there have been? How much would that cost the
Yes.
taxpayer?
So we know that there are a lot of great stories of people that were abused or neglected that have become successful. I want to share one great story. There's a young lady, when she up to age 16, she had worked on 3 migrant farms, Homestead, Texas, Pennsylvania. And up to age 16, and right around then, a family member physically abused her, not sexually. So they ran away. They went to the blood family where the grandfather promptly sexually abused all of them. She was able to escape with a friend. She eventually got help. She went to Miami-Dade and graduated. She went to Barry and graduated. Then she got a full scholarship to Case Western and got her master's. And she said, Michael, I was 20 miles from where I used to pick potatoes. Recently, she opened up a not-for-profit in Homestead. She got $1 million from Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, and then $500,000 from the Miami Foundation. And now they bought a church building, and now it's filled with social services. So a perfect example that can happen if we can lend a hand and support, because she could have fallen the other way without any particular problem. So I know you have lots of great stories like that. And Miriam, tell us about some success stories for people that you've been taking care of.
We have a Holocaust survivor who also is an educator and has gone through very frail times in terms of health. Our agency was able to provide food support with home-delivered meals and home care assistance to assist in her healing process. No family, no one else to depend on. JCS was her family and is her family. She is now a very renowned educator who travels not only around the county, but around the country, providing children in junior high schools, and colleges with information, educational information about not only her Holocaust story, but about perspective in terms of what is going on in the world today and all the wars and all the trauma and anti-Semitism and all sorts of discrimination, and her perspective as a survivor of so much trauma. She was in the camps as a child. So 89 years old, out in the world educating, surviving the trauma of the Holocaust, the loss of family, medical issues and survivals, and the safety net services that were provided by JCS have allowed her to move on in a healthy way, in a safe way, and contribute so very much, not only to the community, but also to young people to learn and grow from her experiences. And I will say, Mike, that the investment that is made by the county, our partners, the partner of all CBOs that went through this competitive
That's for community-based organizations.
Community-based organizations, is not only the amount of the grant. For example, we receive a grant for home care for $44,000. And we match that grant twofold. So that $44,000 is about $140,000. And who is the match? Corporate America, the local community, philanthropy, and individual donors. These individuals say to me, Miriam, I will invest with you if your community has some skin in the game, if your community invests with you. Right. So if we lose that 44, there's $140,000 of care that doesn't happen to someone that is in their home in recovery short-term or has long-term needs. The alternative is that those individuals will not be able to continue on a healthy path with dignity, respect. They will end up in the care of the emergency room at our local hospitals for a much greater cost to the taxpayer and a great cost in terms of health and well-being of the resident that we serve.
So how do we address the issue where the opponents of the county giving money, when they would say, well, why don't they just go get private donations for everything?
Well,
Counselor?
Yeah, I can tell you that we're out there every day pounding the pavement getting private donations. And like Miriam just said, we use our county funding to leverage private donations. I can't think of a single corporate sponsor or private foundation or even a private individual who doesn't ask us, what is the county giving you in funding? What are you getting from the state? But they want to know that your local government is invested in this.
It also puts a stamp of approval on
course.
it, which is like, listen, they believe in us, and so you should.
Of course.
One of the local Habads was doing things, so it was like 5-1.
Yeah.
I finally went, okay, all right, I give in, all right? And that is effective in doing that, because for the giver, and there, you think, because of this is so much more. So let's talk about your education and why you became a lawyer, and how did you go from practicing law somewhere?
Yeah.
What type of law did you practice?
I was a litigator, so I did a lot of toxic tort litigation, asbestos and tobacco litigation, and some medical malpractice litigation as well. I started my career in Miami, actually, as an assistant U.S. attorney. And in 2019, decided I wanted to do something that felt a little more meaningful, still advocating, but this time on behalf of children.
So what was that aha moment? Do you remember that?
It's so funny. Everybody asks me for the aha moment. There wasn't one. It was an evolution. I was serving on quite a few nonprofit boards, even when I was practicing law. I was very passionate about that work, very passionate about advocating for the most vulnerable in our community. And this opportunity at Kristi House presented itself, and how could I say no? It was fabulous.
And how long you been with Kristi?
Just over 6 years now. I've been the CEO. And actually, Mike, what the story you were telling a few minutes ago about the survivor and the property purchased in Homestead, we're their partner in that property.
Oh, very good.
We purchased that property because the need in Miami-Dade County, and specifically in that part of the county, is growing. It is greater than ever. So taking away our county funding now, when the need for our services, for JCS's services, for our whole collective services is growing, is really sending a bad message.
Let's talk about autism and related disorders. Depending on which figure you buy into, originally 6 months ago I would hear 1 out of 30 to 35. Now it's 1 out of 20. That's for autism, and then 1 out of 6 or 7 for other disorders. How do you attend to that need for these young children that wind up there?
Yeah, so we have partnerships with others in our collective, actually. So other CBO grantees are our partners. I mean, JCS is one of Kristi House's partners. There are CBOs in our organization who are partners. So if we have a child who comes in, obviously we can provide the therapeutic services they need. We have social workers who are specially trained to work with different parts of the population, different disorders that they might have. But we're going to also refer that child and their families to our partners in the community who specifically address autism or other disorders, so that they can get even more specialized services and meet all of their needs, so that they can be productive, so their families can be productive, and so they can go on to have wonderful lives.
By the way, we have several shows on autism, and in the small world that it is, I introduced somebody that was just here to Autism Dad, Victor Atunze, who happened to come to one of our meet and greets where we were talking about autism, and he walks in, he wears the hat, said, "Autism Dad." See, Victor, I'm working for you, buddy. And so I said, "Oh, Victor, why don't you talk about it?" Because we had Rabbi Yossi Harlig from Friendship Circle, we had the Miracle League, and we had somebody from the the University of Miami. So Victor has probably been to 8 or 10 of our events. And today I was introducing him to somebody that was on the show, and she said, "Listen, I got a 14-year-old son." And I just spent a half an hour with her. No, nothing. I didn't know about it. But we recognize when we talk about it, people come forth and they open up and they be able to say that. So what do you do for the autistic adults that are in the need like that?
So if they're an adult that needs support, we have, let's say for older adults, we have an older adult case management group, and they do an assessment to evaluate all the needs of that individual and any family members that may be living with them, whether it's food support, mental health support, home care support. We have many seniors that are living on up to $1,000 a month for everything. So there's a great deal of support. Sometimes they just can't afford the medical device that they need that's not covered by Medicaid or Medicare. Sometimes they come to us and they say they haven't received their SNAP benefits and they need food support to tide them over.
Is that going away?
It's being chiseled. I
Counselor,
would
you're so
say,
sweet.
there are reductions. For example, we have a Holocaust survivor who contacted us and said, my Social Security check was cut, apparently with some algorithm or calculation that was done by the government. They found that they had overpaid, quote unquote, for a few years for $50 a month, and now that's being clawed back. So we assist that individual in working with the government navigating to do a longer payment plan than clawing back funds for 5-10 years on someone with such a limited income. We have congregate meal sites where seniors get their only warm kosher meal 5 days a week. Our seniors bring a Tupperware, so they eat half a meal, so they have the other half for dinner. There is poverty and there is need in our community. These seniors vote. They're bright, they're amazing, they're vibrant, but they're in a situation where they don't have the economic means to continue to live a healthy life through their later years. And so they come to JCS, food support, an electric bill that's late. Some people don't have an AC in their home. And in 108-degree weather in our community right now, we need to make sure that they're in a safe place. We have 80 seniors that are homebound, that are income restricted, less than $1,000 a month. We deliver groceries to them. We have a social worker check in. If these programs are abandoned by our community, those seniors will end up in the street, in the hospital, or worse. And we are responsible for the frail and vulnerable in our community. It is the Judeo-Christian ethic and values that guide us. Whether you're faith-based or not, we care and serve the entire community.
Let's talk about the families, these young people. Are there families there that have not been at all involved in the abuse, but they were abused outside of the family? And how do you help that family unit?
Yes. So I will say about 90% of abuse cases are at the hands of a family member or a close family friend, a trusted friend. But often we see cases come in where a family member is not involved. And so we want to do our best to keep that family unit together, but also to make sure they're kept stable. So we have advocates in our organization at Kristi House who will meet with the families, who will talk about what their needs are. Sometimes, as Miriam said, it might be an electric bill that needs to be paid. Maybe they need some rent assistance. Maybe they have food insecurity issues. Maybe they need help identifying what benefits they're eligible for and then getting those benefits. Our advocates will work with them to get them whatever services they need. And I don't mean they're just handing them a card and saying, oh, go down here and fill out this paperwork. No, they're going with them. They're filling out the paperwork with them. If we can pay an electric bill or a rent for a month, we're doing that too. So we are doing everything in our power to make these family units stable and strong.
So people that donate to both your organizations, when we hear the words food insecurities, it's hard for most people to imagine what that might be, because we go down the street and we do it, if we go out, or nowadays you call Uber and pay triple the price. How can more people understand what it means to have food insecurity?
One of the possibilities is to come and become a volunteer at organizations like ours, or Farm Share, or Catholic Charities, which are partner agencies, or Overtown Youth Center. For example, on September 14th, JCS is hosting a distribution of holiday foods, flowers, and toiletries to 550 homebound seniors. This is for Rosh Hashanah. This is traditional foods. This is a human connection. A family of 2 or 3, or a couple, or an individual person will go into the home of one of our clients. Client, of course, gives permission in advance, and provide food and provide a human connection. That human connection does something not only for the client, but for the volunteer. It is a transformative moment. And for children to understand, so many of our children are so blessed with everything. that children have a view in to the reality that there are individuals in our community that don't have all the blessings and all the wealth and the ability to walk into a grocery store and fill up the cart and the ability to travel or go to a movie. And it's an eye opener, and it really is a transformative experience for families and children. So volunteering is a big way to learn about food security and the opportunities to help others.
Let's talk about the volunteer programs that you offer at Kristi House.
Yeah, so we have a robust volunteer program. We have volunteers who come in weekly who help us keep our food pantry stocked. Either they'll bring things with them or they'll help us unpack donations and put them away. We have waiting room ambassadors, so when the kids come for their appointments, often they're waiting for a little bit in our waiting room, or maybe our therapist is meeting with the family, and so the kids are waiting in the waiting room. We have weight room ambassadors who can sit with them and do arts and crafts or different things with them. We're always in need of people helping us with drives, so whether it's toy drives, food drives, back to school drives. We just did 2 really big back to school events. There's a plethora of opportunities to get involved.
Great word. So let's talk about what it means to the recipient of those services and of that food. Let's talk about how when they arrive and then when they get it, or they're eating there or they're taking. Talk about what people tell you.
So what our families and seniors tell us is that they feel dignity. They feel respect. They feel that they are part of a community and someone cares for them. The majority of the seniors we serve are alone in the world, for whatever the circumstances. Some may have family members that live away. Some may have family members that are estranged. But most of the seniors we serve are isolated, but for the touch points of our volunteer, of our social worker, case manager, our home care aide. And so for them, it's a sense of dignity, it's a sense of belonging. And we learned through COVID that when everyone was isolated, our mental and emotional, as well as our physical health, deteriorated. Imagine for someone that is isolated in the world and doesn't have an office to Zoom into and can't order Instacart to get their groceries delivered because they just don't have the means. So really, it's a life-changing experience to be able to have someone care for you. It's not only about the food. It's about the human touch, the engagement, and the sense of dignity that it brings.
So in some cases, your clients are only 10 or 20% of the age of and they're just beginning this process.
Yes.
So the impact is significant on both. But here we have, they're lucky, another 50 years ahead of them.
Yeah.
So it's pretty important to instill in them that they're worthwhile.
Absolutely. And when it comes to abuse, unfortunately, trauma is generational. And so, you're more likely, if something happened to you and there's no proper intervention, you're more likely to go on and have additional trauma in your life or, unfortunately, cause trauma. And so, but there's so much research out there that with the proper intervention, you break that cycle. But if we don't break that cycle, it's going to cost us a whole lot more money than investing in Kristi House today.
You all remember Hurricane Andrew?
Oh, yes.
30 plus years. As soon as I say it, I get goosebumps, right?
Yeah.
So hundreds of thousands of people were traumatized by that. And some of it still goes on. But imagine what these young ladies and young boys must be going through if a hurricane in which you were not physically hurt, right, causes 30 years later, it's still there.
Yeah.
So tell us about the therapy that you can provide for these young people.
Yeah, so we offer several different therapeutic modalities. All of them are evidence-based. All of them are trauma-based therapies. The primary one we use is trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. It's designed to go about 15 to 18 sessions, so it's not terribly long, and you can really heal the child in that amount of time. But all of our therapists, and we have about 23 full-time full-time therapists on staff. They're all specially trained in these different modalities. If that's not the right one for a child or a family for whatever reason, we can offer others. And it's really, a lot of times when we have a client who could afford to go to a private therapist, I'll say, listen, if you really want me to refer you, I will. But there is no better trained therapist for this kind of trauma than the therapists at Kristi House.
It's wonderful. So Dr. Tina Carroll Scott, she is a pediatrician that 17 years ago, she gave up her lucrative practice, I might add, doctor, in Bal Harbour to come over here to South Miami and serve the people that need it the most. So one of the things I learned from her, I used to talk about patients. She says, no, Michael, it's a family. And when it finally got into my brain, all right, that she says, these are my families. Mm-hmm. One of her families was evicted. She went there, and all the clothes were out in the street. She got them into a hotel. There were twins, two girls. One had a scholarship at FIU, another one's going to get an MIT. And she helped that family survive, and they're both in school now. And when I saw what people do to protect them, because they could have gone I don't know where they go, somewhere else, right? Yeah. And she was able to save them. So my hat's off to you. And so I frequently would give clothes over there. She would call me, is that your stuff? I go, I don't know what you're talking about. Finally, after about 10 times of doing it, I said, Michael, I know what size you are. These are your clothes. Then it was interesting. She sent me a picture of the family who got a bunch of stuff. Oh, boy, I'll tell you what, that really got to me. I said, when they look in that bag, they're going to be really happy. And so if somebody wants to donate to either place, what should they do, whether money or stuff?
Yes, you can go to our website, www.kristihouse.org. You can call us, 305-547-6800, or you can drop by. Our main location is 1265 Northwest 12th Avenue, right across the street from Sylvester Cancer Center. You can just come on by anytime you want.
That's wonderful. And Miriam?
So website is www.jcsfl.org. Telephone number for any donations or contributions, 786-696-3267.
Okay. Since you've been an attorney, when you're doing your closing argument, so this is, you're going to get to next. Do your closing arguments to the commission, to the mayor, and you're going to look right in this camera right over there. You're on.
It's very simple. Find the money. These are critical life-saving services that help the most vulnerable in our communities. I've heard it said that this budget addresses the essential needs of our community, but that is not true. The services that our CBOs provide are the critical services. They are absolutely essential. We cannot leave behind the most frail and the most vulnerable in our communities. We must restore all of the funding to the CBOs.
Wow. Miriam, you're on.
At this time, our community requires of all of us to strengthen the safety net of services that addresses the needs of the frail and vulnerable among us. Our Judeo-Christian and Islamic values require us to care for others. So I encourage the county in its $12 billion budget to find the means to please fulfill the responsibilities of the taxpayers and our elected officials together, working in partnership to fully fund the safety net community-based nonprofits this year, while the commission establishes a fully stable, long-term revenue source dedicated only for the safety net. Encouragement yesterday through the Committee of the Whole with a fantastic proposal from the Vice Chairman, and many echoed support. We look forward to a long-term solution and commitment to the poor and frail in our community. But for this year, so we can transition to that point, please consider, we urge you, and we have high hopes that with your leadership and your ability to effectively manage the tax resources of our community, we will be able to continue to serve. We will continue to draw philanthropy money, corporate money, and individual donors into the partnership of care for those that need it the most.
Wow. Miriam Singer from the Jewish Community Service and Amanda Altman. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Don't
for
go
having
anywhere
us,
yet,
Mike.
all right, from the Kristi house. We're going to look right over this camera over here. Folks, thanks for joining us. Remember the Disney rule. The Disney rule is when you hug somebody, don't stop hugging until they stop. Have a great day. Bye now.